Well, we got to do something about the door on this truck. Since the last video, we had a couple really lousy weather days again. That's spring in Wyoming. You'll have a couple nice days and a couple terrible days and a couple nice days and a couple terrible days and so on and so forth. And then kind of all of a sudden it goes to just blazing hot with not much in between. So we got to do something about this. What we're thinking right now is we're going to do a hinge door and swing in. That's only our third plan for this door, but that's kind of what happens with custom builds. Sometimes you try things out and figure out what works and what doesn't work. We originally planned on doing a swing out door, and we're going to be putting some storage boxes on the outside here. The exact system to be determined still, but we're going to be putting some boxes out there. So we're going to hinge the door here, bring it open, and it would like go as far as the storage boxes. Then we thought, you know, let's do a slider door. That'd be really awesome, right? And slide over. We'd have to rejigger our storage box a little, but it was doable, and it wouldn't be in the way of anything, and it'd be nice and convenient. And I was all prepared to go forward with that. Then I realized, because I'm going to have tracks on the top and the bottom, that if I put a track on the bottom, it's going to be difficult to step over. Let me show you what I mean here. So we got this space here. This is the old metal from the metal from the original truck. And if we put a track on here, like so, we have to have it far enough away from the wall. We have to have a gap here away from the wall to allow for any warpage or whatever of the door over time. But when we do this, now we really don't have anywhere to step coming out. So I think it would be not quite as bad going in, because we'd step on the bumper and then step in. You kind of have to clear this though, so we're not stepping on it, bending it. My big concern is coming out, because you have to plant your foot back here on the floor, not step on this so you don't damage it and bend it or something. Come over this and step down onto the bumper. That's a little trickier to do. It's doable, but it's a little trickier. And my concern beyond that is, we've mentioned before, we have a inspection business. We do home and commercial property inspections. I'm also a certified aging in place inspector. And one of the things we think about with that niche is how to keep people safe and how to avoid some of the problems associated with, that often are associated with age. When I look at something like this, all I can think of is that's a trip hazard. And you're coming out here and you don't even have a flat deck or something on the other side. You're trying to come out here and step down. And tripping over this, it's, I'd have to measure to tell you for sure, but I think it's about 3 feet in the air. So that would be quite a fall. It could be a serious injury resulting from it. So we decided not to do the sliding door. So instead, we're back to doing a hinged door, and it is going to be a custom door because that's just the way it's going to work. Standard doors are 32-inch or 36-inch, and that's the actual door dimension. Need a little more for the rough opening. The problem I have is, because we could have gone to 32 and made that work, but the problem we have is that we've only got about a 72-inch or 73-inch height. And standard doors you're going to go to Menards or Home Depot or Lowe's and buy are going to be 80 inches high usually. That's a problem. Technically, you can cut a door down, but the way they design them these days, I haven't been able to find one I could comfortably and safely cut down without risking damaging the structure of the door. So we're just going to make our own door, which is what a lot of people have to do with unusual applications like this. Not a big deal. Just take a little bit of time to make sure we get it careful. We'll make our own door, hinge it, but we're going to hinge it so that it goes inside now. We're moving the hinge to this side. So you come up to the truck to go in, you'll be able to grab the latch, open it, and the door will swing out of the way and leave it open. We're going to have a little bit of shallow storage here on this side behind where this wall is, because it's kind of just the way it worked out. So we'll have a little bit of storage here, but the door will hinge open and go as far as that storage area. Now, one other thing we've had a lot of questions about is the pass-through door here. So I'm going to do a little bit of work with that today. This pass-through here, people wonder why it's not bigger and whatever. The reason it's not bigger is we started with this size on purpose because we were sure this size was going to fit. Now we got a little bit of junk in here we took out of the van because that's getting ready for sale. So it's actually ready for sale. It is for sale now, listed on Van Camper. But you can see where the seats are. And I'm going around front and show you again from the front. But The catch is we have a seat here. There's going to be a seat that's exactly the same thing on the passenger side. We just need to get out and get one, hopefully fairly soon. We have been thwarted on that too by weather because I didn't want to go walk around junkyards in the mud and the snow and everything. So that door is actually the width of the opening between the seats. So any bigger is of limited utility, but we are going to make it bigger. And I'm going to go run around the front and show you. Okay, so around in the front here, you can see the seat. Now I got the seat pulled up right now because I didn't want to cut it when I was on accident, damage it while I was working on the pass-through door. But if we slide the seat back, you can see that this pass-through is cut out almost exactly. It actually overlaps by about half an inch maybe, but it pretty much lines up with the seat, the armrest here on the seat. All right, perhaps a better view here. You can see that door is really coming right out to the edge of the seat, right out to my shoulder. So making it wider isn't going to do too much. However, we are going to make it a little wider because, and it's going to come behind the armrest and a little bit behind the seat. So the seat's still in the way when you try and come in or out. What we're going to gain from that is making it wider is that the foot room is going to be exactly the same, but we'll have a little more hip and shoulder room to come through. That being said, I can come through here. I'm a fairly big guy, and I can come through here no problem. But I think it'll be a little more comfortable, a little more convenient to go in and out with the wider height up here. And this door too is not intended to be a primary means of ingress and egress to the living area in the box in the back. This door is intended first and foremost for an emergency egress in case we're in the back and there's an emergency and we cannot or do not want to use the back door, or in case we're camped somewhere and something weird is developing and we just want to hop in the front, start the engine and drive away. But it's also a convenience ingress and egress. So if we're traveling and we just want to pull over and hop in the back and use the bathroom or grab a drink or a snack or whatever, we can do that. So it's kind of a secondary door that's not really intended to be used extensively. I'll show you down here on the floor too, the way this thing's designed. The floor of the cab is quite a bit lower than the floor of the box in the back. So we need to trim this down a little more. I just couldn't get it lower with my saw coming from this side, so I need to trim it down from this side, and I'll get it to floor height in the back, to the same height as the floor in the back. But we can't go any lower. And because of the way a lot of these box trucks are designed, they have different designs. There's the cab, the van style cab like this one, and they're very popular, probably the most popular. There's a pickup style cab that they've been around for a long time. I remember driving a 70s vintage one back in the 80s at one of my first jobs I had. I used to drive one of them around. So they've been around for a long time, but they seem to be getting a little more popular in recent years. And then there's the cab over design like the Isuzu NPR or the Mitsubishi Fuso, or there's a GMC that's like that as well. Each one has, they're designed for being cargo trucks, but when you get into converting them into campers, each one has advantages and challenges with it. So there's no perfect scenario there. In this case, we also can't go too high with this door, with a pass-through, because this is right here, this is the seam where the roof of the cab is bolted to the front wall of the box. So we can't go higher than that. And I don't want to go all the way to it just to make sure I don't have any structural issues. So we can come up like an inch, inch and a half maybe above to give us a little more headroom, but this is going to be what Melanie calls a hobbit door. We're still going to have to bend over to go through it because it's just a half-size door. And you'll see that on a lot of box trucks, even those that have from the factory pass-through doors, they're like hobbit doors. And they're almost, you crawl through them. But it is an option. It gives you the option of passing through. Those that have them added on are generally going to be like this too. There are some trucks, they're usually the larger ones with a higher deck height in the back too, higher cab, and they'll actually have the ceiling cut away and a scoop, like a wind scoop on there, and that gives you more headroom in the cab, and they'll have a bigger or taller pass-through door that's closer to stand-up height. But those are kind of unusual, and this is a far more common situation. So we're going to make it bigger, and I'm going to mark it out today. I may not cut it today because we got to clean out the cab a little bit, But I want to get some stuff done today. I want to get that marked out at least and get the door started, hopefully, because it's nice again today. Very, very nice, pleasant day, 70s. The wind isn't too bad, but the next couple days is supposed to be terrible again. And then we'll be waiting for the weekend to improve a little. So I want to get done what I can today. So we're going to dive into this, but I wanted to take a minute to explain a few things that may not have been clear from previous videos, and based on that we've had a lot of questions and comments around it. So there's the marks to where we're going to expand it. So we're going to add about 2 inches on either side. As you can see here where the pen mark is, along up here. And we're going to add a little over 1 inch on the top where that line is. But that's really as big as we can go with this truck design. Now, I have seen at least one box truck conversion where somebody kind of followed the line here of where the cab is and cut out they kind of cut out a more of a oval shaped thing, like a cave shape almost. And the only thing I can see with that is we get you a little more light and airflow through, which, you know, is maybe worth considering, and we can always do that in the future if we want to. But because of the design we're doing here, we wouldn't actually get that. And we'll get into that more in the future, but we think we're going to have closets up here in the front, so that wouldn't actually gain us anything anyways. But it's not going to gain any more pass-through ability or pass-through ease, making it bigger than what we have here. So that's what we're working with, and like I said, we can always expand it more in the future if we decide we want to, but I don't think it's going to work with the build we're intending anyways. And Melanie's out here cleaning up the doors of the truck. I did pull off I didn't film it, but I did get off the DOT number and the name of the company that we got the truck from that was on the door. And Melanie came through, I think yesterday, and went and used some goof off, or my son just coming home, used goof off or tar remover or whatever it was, bug remover, whatever it was she used, and cleaned up the door and got the adhesive residue off. Now she's giving it a quick scrub, and we're going to put some decals on here. Let me show you too. This is the care and precision that Melanie puts into everything that I do not. So I guess that's why we're a good team. One of the many reasons we're a good team, but she does the detail stuff that I am just too lazy to do. I can appreciate it. I can appreciate the results, but I tend to not do it. So she's going to have this door perfect, looking better than when it came out of the factory and was a Hertz-Penske moving truck. Melanie was just clarifying for me that the residue she's removing right now actually goes back 2 owners. So this was a Hertz-Penske moving truck when it was new, and then when it was retired from Hertz-Penske, it was bought by a company in, I think, Missoula, Montana, that used it for less than truckload hauls, kind of hot shot stuff. And they went out of business, and it was bought by another company in Billings that used it for 5 or more years, running all over the place, mostly back and forth between Billings and Bozeman. But this one goes back to not the company we bought it from. This goes back to the company before that was in Missoula. So she's just trying to get that door as good as possible, and then we're going to be putting some graphics on it ourselves. So one of the other questions that's come up that I thought I'd address here in this video before I start on the door is why did I not use a level to build the door frame, make sure everything's level, and then won't that result in the door not swinging properly or closing properly? And the short answer is no, it will not. There's more than one way to do a lot of things, and framing up a door is one of those. So even if I were using a level, if I were working on a house, for example, I still would be using a tape measure to check and make sure that it's the same top and bottom and on the sides and even diagonally across both directions. That's really going to give me a more accurate estimation of how level the door is anyways. But beyond that, and this is the really big thing here, is that when you're working on a house, sticks and bricks, hopefully your house is level. So like I said, I still would be using this, but you might use a level in a house because everything is hopefully level. And even if your house is settled a little bit, you still are going to want your door to be level. The problem with something like this is, with a truck, I'm not parked totally level, and I never am able to get parked totally level. And even if I had, for example, a driveway, they are designed to be sloped. If they're not sloped, as a property inspector, I would call that out as a defect, because it's going to lead to damage to the concrete or the asphalt, and it's going to lead to water problems around the garage or around the house. They got to be sloped to allow water to drain. And if you have a garage in your house that you can pull your vehicle into, which this one ain't going into anyways because it's like 10.5 feet tall, except for we have like a commercial garage or a RV garage to fit this thing into. If you got a garage, you can pull your van into it, whatever. The floor still needs to be sloped towards the door. And again, as an inspector, I would call that out as a defect if it was not sloped, because you need water that drips off your vehicle when it's raining, or snow and ice gets on your vehicle while you're outside driving and it melts in the garage, drops water on the floor. That needs to be able to drain out of the garage. So you're probably not going to be able to have anywhere truly level to work on your vehicle unless you have some kind of a commercial warehouse or shop where the floor is intentionally flat, but I still have to have like floor drains and stuff. So almost without exception, you're not going to have a truly level place to work. But if I do put a level on, a 4-foot level here on, I'm off, it shows I'm off just a whisker to the right. And if I check it again over here, it shows I'm off again exactly the same amount, just a whisker to the right. That's not because the door is crooked, it's because I'm not parked totally level. So in this case too, I am working with a steel box here, steel frame that is pretty square and level. So I'm working off of that. In a little bit here, the next step on this door is going to be I'll trim it off with finish wood. And by the way, and I'll shim that as necessary. But what I was going to go with that was, it's off just a hair, like 1/8 of an inch at max, maybe 1/16 inch is what is showing on the level, but I'm going by the actual measurements. Okay, I'm gonna put some finished wood around all 3 sides here. We'll put a threshold on the bottom. That's gonna be our final finished door frame, and then we'll install the door into that. But when you check with a square to check for level, we are just literally within a 1/16 of an inch. Two of the sides measure absolutely 100% perfect. Two corners are 100% perfect. 2 are within a 1/16 of an inch. Having done a lot of construction work and inspection work and remodeling and other things, that is absolutely within accepted standards for a professionally built door frame. And a lot of new construction houses are not even going to be that tight on all the door frames. That's where the trim comes in. You have builder shims. You shim to get it exactly perfect, and you go from there. So the door is going to be fine, but that's why I'm not using a level, because it's not going to help, because I'm not parked 100% level. It would actually just mislead me and cause me to make mistakes. Another one of the advantages of a box truck, we got a nice square opening that is going to work just fine for framing up this door, and you'll see very soon it's going to work just fine. All right, so we're just framing up the door here, and meanwhile, it's like another day at the petting zoo. We got wild turkeys out here. We got a pronghorn napping on a hill over here. Good times. We're using these cool trim head screws for this part, and we'll be using them other places in the build as well. They're just smaller heads, and they're a Torx bit, a small Torx bit, but when you sink them in, it makes a smaller hole than a traditional screw does, which makes it easier to make them pretty and cover it over with wood putty or whatever afterwards. So, all right, this is perfectly level though. It's perfect, so perfectly square. So we'll finish up putting these in. There we go. That'll be easy to hide. All right, we got it held in place, and that is absolutely square. So our door is going to go in here nicely. All right, so we ended up with a mix of the fancy trim screws and some regular construction screws, just because there's just a little bit of bowing going on, and particularly on this side, but in the lumber. So, but we have a nice square door frame with finished wood that'll look nice. Of course, it'll be painted or whatever to protect, or stained to protect it, but there we go. Just like the folks uptown. Well, we got the door framed in. Came out pretty good. It is nice and square. It's going to work perfectly. I need to get the materials, I have some of the materials for the door, but I don't have everything I need. So It's 5:30 in the evening, so, and it looks like it wants to rain. I hope it doesn't, but it looks like it wants to. So I think we're gonna make a run to Menards or Home Depot this evening, take the van again, and not the Vanagon, but the van again, and we'll grab the rest of what I need. And worst case, if the weather's bad the next couple days, I can actually work on the door inside the box truck, because we got plenty of room to work with in here. It's like a mobile workshop right now. And I won't have to be outside doing it if the weather's bad. That'll be the next step anyways, and we got to decide about hinges too, for how we're going to hinge it, and we got to decide about a latch and everything. But I think we're going to grab some more supplies tonight, and then probably tomorrow we'll tackle it. We're both getting tired. It's been a fairly full day. We got a whole playlist on this build series, this box truck build series, turning this thing into a tiny home on wheels that suits our needs perfectly. And if you want to check that out, well, here's a link for that whole playlist.